The latest World Economic Forum kicks off in the Swiss town of Davos tomorrow. But with the world's financial markets calming down and a global recovery seemingly underway, will the world's movers and shakers really have that much to talk about? Well, Tracy Corrigan, who's the editor of the European Wall Street Journal, is a Davos devotee. Tracy, what do you think is going to top the agenda this year?
Well, I think global growth is still a pretty important issue for all of the attendees, both the policymakers and the business leaders that are going to be there. And you sort of say it's underway, but I don't think there's that much confidence that things are burgeoning. And certainly it seems to be pretty fragile. And so I think that will be the main topic, really, is how policymakers and business can work together. That's what Davos is supposed to be about, to ensure that we are on the path to global growth and that we don't fall back again. I
mean, that's one of the interesting questions here, is a question mark over global growth, a question mark over what has actually been done to actually create this global growth, and where really is it sustainable?
Yes, well, I mean, I think that the two things that have led to sort of a more optimistic feeling at the start of this year are really the fiscal cliff has been averted for the moment in the US, and the euro crisis has abated in Europe. Neither of those things are actually sorted out, so I sort of think that both of those issues will still be on the agenda.
I mean, and a lot of people are suggesting that perhaps just this incredible boosting of liquidity, global liquidity, is the only thing that's feeding that growth at the moment, but we still haven't got the fiscal reforms that are actually necessary.
That's right, and I think particularly in Europe the fear is that precisely because the danger zone has receded a little bit, that makes it less likely that we'll have those kind of reforms, because it does seem that Europe every time has to go to the brink before the reforms come into force.
I mean, one of the things that people one phrase that seems to be cropping up increasingly is this term currency wars. The fact is that more and more countries are seeking to devalue their currencies, making their exports more competitive. Is this likely to be something that's going to become a major issue at Davos?
I think that will definitely be on the agenda, because it's been an increasing issue over the last sort of month or so. We've got a story in this morning's paper about Jens Weidmann, the Bundesbank head, warning Japan about that. And I think there's definitely a danger that quantitative easing doesn't seem to have totally worked in terms of restoring global growth, and each country might individually start to feel that they need to devalue their currency, and obviously that's a zero-sum game.
I mean, of course, also a lot of this pressure for this is coming from the politicians on the central bank. So there seems to be a shift going on here where politics is playing a much bigger role in central bank policy. Is that a result of all this?
Well, yes. Well, I mean, there's a debate that's also beginning, isn't there? I think about whether central bank independence is a good thing, and indeed is being eroded. Yeah, no. And that will no doubt come up. I mean, there's a couple of sessions where there's obviously central bankers are going to be there and politicians, and there's a couple of debates where they're going to be on the stage together. So that'll be interesting to watch.
And briefly, Tracy, China. It used to be a big issue often at these sort of forums. Is that likely to be such a big thing today?
China's often a big issue in Davos, but they're not often a big contingent for two reasons. One is that it conflicts with holidays in China, so they tend to not be around and not come to it. And also there is another event in China, so they tend to wait to boost their own event. So in fact, there are going to be twice the number of Indians as there are of Chinese at the event. But that doesn't mean that China won't be a big issue on the agenda.
But at least this time, I should imagine that people are quite happy that it looks as if they're not going to have a hard landing.
Yeah, I think that again, China is sort of one of the hopes that people are clinging on to as a potential hook for growth. Okay, finally, Tracy, key speakers to look for. I think there's a couple of key sessions. One is Monti is going to be speaking about the Eurozone early in the week. And then on Saturday there's a big panel including Lagarde and some central bankers looking at the global economic outlook. I mean, I guess the other thing about Davos, obviously, that we all know is that a quarter of it is all of this stuff, and then another 75% is what goes on in the sidelines. So I mean, who knows what deals will be done this year in the bars of Davos at 1 o'clock in the morning.
We won't describe it as partying, Tracy. Thank you very much indeed.